Los Angeles. There's no doubt about it. They've covered every major newspaper in the country with the story.
What are we going to do about it, Frank?
Do something. You can bet that someone somewhere is going to recognize those two and tip off the police. If the police get to Luke and Laura before we do, Luke isn't going to waste any time before he hands over the black book to the authorities. That public phone we traced Hutch to, where's it located?
Right, a town named Beecher's Corners.
Well, Luke and Laura have probably seen this by now. I'm sure they're already on their way. Have you sent the second man to Fair Oaks?
Left last night. I told him simply to wait.
Is it someone we know this time? Someone we can trust?
I can personally vouch for him. But do you think one man backup is enough to cover Fair Oaks?
Yes. I'm sure this is where Luke's eventually headed. I made the mistake on the wedding day, telling her about the office building in Fair Oaks that I was deeding to him as part of the marriage settlement. It states in the black book that the left-handed boy is 150 miles from Port Charles. It only takes common sense and a map to figure out the rest.
That Spencer kid's smart.
Too smart for his own good. Or ours. Glad Jennifer's out of town. At least she won't be around with the nasty part of our business has to be done.
Too bad for Luke. He could have had a bright future with you, Frank, couldn't he?
Very bright. But now, he won't have any future at all. Neither will Laura Baldwin.
Oh, Joe.
Oh, Leslie?
I didn't expect to see you here. I would have thought you'd be at the party at Steve's by now.
Well, I am going over. I wanted to talk to you first.
Something wrong?
I'm not certain.
Oh, well, that's nicely cryptic. Did Mrs. Grant offer you something to drink?
Yes, she did, and I am fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, now what is it that's worrying you?
Something is going on down at police headquarters. I'm not really sure what, but there's a shakeup going on. My friend, Cliff Stoddard, I think you've met him.
Yeah, sure.
Well, he's in the hot seat right now because his department has had a lot of leaks in the last year. I'm talking about information leaks.
Yeah, well, I could see where that would be serious.
Yeah, well, now comes the question I have to ask. It's not an easy one to ask, and yet I have to.
What, Joe?
In your estimation, is it possible that Laura could be on the run because she knows more than she should about Frank Smith?
I don't know.
If I'm calling late.
It makes a great deal of difference to me.
This is the first chance I've had to get to a phone.
When you say you'll call at a certain time, that's when I expect you to call. We're waiting for news of what the newspaper stories did to your plan.
It didn't scare my friends away, if that's what you mean.
Why not?
Nobody in these parts ever got a chance to see the story.
Sounds like you did some clever footwork.
That's right.
Now, will you tell me why you haven't accomplished what you were sent to do?
I can't find out where Luke keeps the black book. So what good is it going to do for me to kill him if I can't get the book back for you?
None at all. All right. Keep in close touch.
I will.
And don't drag this thing out any longer than you have to. Hutch is a hard man to read.
He is? How do you mean?
It's impossible for me to tell whether he's lying or not. He sounds plausible, but if we don't come up with some results soon, we'll have to send Hutch a helper.
Have I said anything to upset you?
No. I just keep having to face the fact these days that there is a lot more going on in Laura's life than anyone has known, including me, and I thought we were so close.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that a kid kept a secret from her mother.
No, but I was convinced that we had grown so much closer than that. You see, there was a period in her life when Rick and I had to get Laura out of one mess after another because she wouldn't confide in anybody, and she promised me that she would stop holding things back enough.
Well, it was a pretty personal thing. It'd be difficult to think about, let alone talk with somebody else about.
She wrote Luke a letter on his wedding day. Well, what was supposed to be his wedding day. And there's one phrase that keeps running through my mind.
And what's that?
She said how difficult it was to break the bond between them, between herself and Luke.
I'm only guessing, but I wonder. I just wonder if that bond could be a bond of two conspirators who knew more than they should about Smith.
I just hate to think of them having that kind of knowledge.
This whole can of worms that we've opened up with this investigation into Frank Smith is a very dangerous one. Because Frank Smith is not the kind of gentleman that appreciates being investigated.
No, what you've told me about him is true. I'm sure he doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And right now it's a little bit like walking a tightrope.
For who? For you?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I want you to have full understanding of what's going on right now. If anything should happen to me within the next couple of weeks, I just want you to be very careful.
What?
Who you trust.
What could happen to you?
Well, maybe not anything at all, but many things could possibly happen.
Well, Joe, you don't have to take unnecessary risks, you know. You can let the police do that. That's their job.
Yeah, I know, but you know that I'm working with the police on this, so it sort of makes it my job, too. Now, I'm not saying this to alarm you. I just do want you to be on your guard. If I should disappear, or if I should take a trip, for instance, in the next couple of weeks for a few days, be very, very careful in whom you put your trust.
Well, I've always felt I could trust Captain Ramsey. He's always been fair with us. And with Laura when she was mixed up in that Hamilton mess. It's okay with you if I put my trust in him, isn't it?
Come in. Can I get you a cup of coffee or something?
No, thank you. I'm fine.
Well, please, have a seat.
Thank you.
There you are.
So, what do you want to ask me?
All right, we'll get right to the point then. First, I'd like to ask you, when was the last time you saw your brother Luke or heard from him?
I haven't seen Luke or heard from him since the day of his wedding when he disappeared.
No other contact at all?
No, sir.
Forgive me, Bobby, but I don't believe that.
What reason do you think I would have for lying to you?
Well, you could have a lot of reasons to protect your brother, but believe me, you wouldn't be doing him any favor.
I honestly don't know any more than I have already told the police.
I'm sorry, that just does not ring true. If there's one thing I remember about your brother Luke in the old days, it was that he was fiercely protective of you and your Aunt Ruby. The two of you meant a great deal to him. Now, I assume that that has not changed.
What are you talking about, the old days?
I've surprised you, haven't I? Barbara Jean?
Barbara Jean.
Mm-hmm. See, I've never mentioned it to you when we've met before, but I've known you ever since you were in Rompers. I remember you as that little girl with the skinned knees and the second-hand roller skates. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. I'll be darned.
Mm-hmm. We go back a lot further than you think.
I don't remember you from back then.
There's no reason you should. But now that you know I have a place in your past, how about leveling with me? Tell me the truth, Barbara Jean. When was the last time you saw Luke? Won't be betraying Luke if you tell me. As a matter of fact, you'll be helping us to help him. We think he's in great danger.
I know. Joe Kelly told me.
So, will you trust me?
Okay. I think he called Aunt Ruby's apartment one day. I mean, I'm not sure, but Frank Smith was over there. And he grabbed the phone, and then Luke hung up. And that's all. Nothing other than that.
You mean Frank Smith was leaning on your aunt?
Yeah. He wanted to know where Luke was.
I know about the black book that Luke's carrying around with him.
I figured you did.
Tell me, Bobby, have you ever seen that black book yourself?
No. Luke told me about it. I saw photographs of it. He photographed it the day of the 4th of July picnic. I covered for him.
You covered for him?
Mm-hmm. Well, Luke was in charge of the fireworks. And so I replaced him, and he sneaked over to Frank Smith's office, and he took photographs of the book.
Why didn't he just take it?
Well, I don't think it ever occurred to him to steal it. He didn't want it. He just wanted some life insurance. That's what he called it. Some kind of protection to save himself because Frank Smith wanted to get him into the rackets.
Yes, but he did steal it at some time.
Yeah. I think he probably went back there the day that we all thought he died and took it then.
But why? I mean, if he photographed it, why? It doesn't make sense.
Listen, I don't know. No, that's something that only Luke can tell you. And I guess you're going to have to ask him about it when you find him.
Well, and I hope it isn't long before we do find him. But it is interesting, him wanting that kind of protection.
Luke always had this crazy dream of wanting to get out of the organization and stay clean.
Do you think it was crazy?
Well, I don't quite understand how he expected to do it.
Well, Bobby, I think we're going to have to help Luke make that dream a reality.